Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar, which I'm going to cover off Gemini for Google Workspace. Um, in terms of what we want to cover, I'm going to go over basically Google's sort of history in AI and how that has been incorporated into Workspace. And then I'm going to cover off some of the key features of Gemini for Workspace that are here at the moment. As well as cover off what's coming down the line. I also want to have a look at the sort of data privacy and security aspects of Workspace, Gemini for Workspace, because that's important, and a lot of customers are asking about that. And then I'll cover off what the Gemini for Workspace add-ons are, the different options around those, and again, how you can successfully evaluate Gemini to see if it's appropriate for your organization. So Google's got they're basically the industry pioneer in AI. So in 2017, they invented the transformer. So if you use things like ChatGPT, the T in that is transformer, and again was invented by Google. In terms of what we've seen in recent times was Bard, and as I'll cover a little bit later, Bard is now the Gemini.google.com, and there is a different variant of it for Google Gemini for Workspace customers. Now, Google's also been baking AI into the Workspace products over the years. So you will, going back in time in terms of malware detection and prevention, Google has that back in 2016. In 2017, they incorporated things like Smart Reply, grammar suggestions, and then Smart Compose. And right up until sort of late last year, with the advent of Duet AI, which has been renamed as Gemini, but also included extra features, are a whole load of other basically working enhancements in using Google Workspace. So a lot of people have sort of said, all these AI, generative AI products, are they going to replace humans? We don't think that's the current state of play, but certainly there's a good argument for this, that humans who use AI will replace those who don't. So again, there's a lot of interest from customers evaluating all the products out there and seeing if something is going to be appropriate and either increase productivity, reduce sort of burden of monotonous tasks, and certainly the Gemini for Workspace tools aim to address those. So in terms of Gemini, the initial features, there are basically 8 initial features that came with Gemini for Workspace. One of these were basically helping you write in Google Docs, from that cold start, being able to generate a document, a plan, and then you could go in and edit that. So here, an example within Google Docs here, you give it a prompt. So that's the terminology with what you want Gemini to do for you. You give it a set of guidelines of what you want, click on create, and then Gemini goes away and tries to put together a sort of straw man of what you asked for. And if you're happy with that, you've got the option, obviously, to insert it into a document. Again, one of the useful features within Gemini is being able to help you write in Gmail, and that's even more effective when you're on a phone as well, where it's harder to type. You can get it well formatted and also improve the tone, elongate or summarize the message that you've got in drafts. Currently, the functionality in slides is being able to create original images. So again, in the right hand side of your slides, you can give it a prompt of what you want it to create, and it'll go away, and you can refine that as well, depending on the type of image that you want to put in there. So again, this is just a run through demo of what can be done in slides at the moment. So again, we can create the image, And this is where you can refine the style that you want. And again, these aren't taken from stock images, they're created here. So there's no sort of copyright issues with including these in presentations. Now, this next level of functionality that's showing here isn't available at the moment, but this is something that's coming down the line. So this is where the example here is being able to insert speaker notes based on the content of the slides that are on here. In Sheets, the current functionality has been able to create a number of basically templates, and I'll jump out and do a bit of a demo of this, a live demo. But basically, if you've got a view on what type of tracking you want done in the sheet, you can give it a prompt, Google will go away, and then it will also pre-populate with some dummy data that you can obviously amend. So in terms of Google Meet, there are a lot of features actually coming here. The initial feature that was released and is in the current version, in the general availability, is that of, again, being able to create a background, a custom background for yourself in Meet. Potentially limited interest in using that, but some of the features that are coming down and that have actually been sort of pre-released at the moment are more useful, and that is around, you may see in the top right hand corner there's a little pen with a star, and this is where it can create a summary and action items based on the Meet that you've got at the moment. So enhancing on things like a transcript, it'll do a bulleted point summary of what's happened and also capture any action points based on what you say within that Meet. Also, and probably a little less obvious, is in if you've got poor lighting, Gemini will allow you to have enhancements to the quality of the Meet in terms of how you look, and also in terms of sound as well. If there's poor hardware or whatever, the algorithms will improve the quality on those. And again, another useful feature for those who've working across different regions is translated captions within Google Meet as well. And one of the features that are coming down the line is if you have multiple languages being spoken on the Meet, it will automatically know that your own language, and it will translate to that in real time. So I mentioned Bard earlier. Now, this is one thing that wasn't available in Duet AI, but is in Gemini, and this is basically the gemini.google.com. So this is your sort of standalone tool for, like your ChatGPT tool for basically doing some research and getting extra information and to develop that deeper understanding. The really key point here is that any prompts that you put into gemini.google.com, if you are a Gemini for Workspace customer, don't go to build any large language models and don't have any human review, and that's different from the consumer versions, and that's true for all other AI tools where a consumer. This is sort of enterprise grade security and privacy on here. So covered off what Google term as the inline experiences. So they're the current product set. And then probably the more exciting features that are just about to be released or in very early preview are the AI collaborator ones. So this is where it'll give personalized, it will give you contextualized responses based on the documents that you've got in your Google Workspace. And as I mentioned, just the gemini.google.com has just been launched, and again it gives that secure environment for being able to do research within AI. So Google Next happened at the start of April over in Las Vegas, and there was a few key announcements around Gemini and Workspace I thought was worth covering here. to create videos based on say prompts that you give it. Google Vids was something that wasn't previewed before Next. It was a brand new announcement there. Again, should help with presentation posts externally, but also internally, probably help with training as well. So I've just mentioned about the take notes for me. So that again, as it says here, it's now in preview. We've got early access to that, and again, we can do separate demos if you want to get in touch. And again, the mention around the translate for me coming in June. Again, what I will point out as well is initially with the Duet AI, it was a single level license SKU. Google have expanded that, and I'll cover it a little bit later. But again, if you just want the take notes for me and the Meet integration, that can be bought as an additional add-on, separate than the full Gemini license. Another thing that's probably not of a huge significance for end users, but from an organizational perspective, there's a security add-on. So this is included in the Gemini Enterprise product, but this is a way for you to train the Gemini model across the all documents that you've got basically in Drive. So you can set it off. It's something like it'll train for about a week, and then from there it can automatically classify documents within your environment, and then you can decide whether you want to extend a DLP rule onto that. And again, mentioned down the bottom here is DLP controls come into Gmail. So just as you can put DLP on Drive and Chat in that same interface, you can also do it now in Gmail, whereas before you would have had to do a content compliance rule. So I'm going to pop out now, and as this is live, I'm going to jump into another environment and show you some of the new features that are coming down the line. So bear with me if this doesn't work. And just to say, in the chat window, so this is live, so feel free to put any questions and I'll try and answer them at the end. So I'll just drop my face off the picture. So this is a bit scary. This is my consumer Gmail box here, and what Google are doing is that for some of these pre-release features, they're putting into consumer space. So if you buy Google One in your consumer life, there's also an AI add-on that you can purchase above that, and actually it gives you a view on some of the new features that is going to go into Gemini for Workspace. And I thought it'd be useful to try out some of these live with you today. So within Gmail inbox, so this is my live inbox here. You can see there's a Gemini prompt on the right hand side, and what we can do is we can ask questions about the email that we've got if you've got a big mailbox like me, and what I can say is what tickets have I purchased recently for Aston Villa? And this is where I cross my fingers and hope that the Gemini God will come back with something relevant. So what it will do here is it's gone through my inbox, and it's correctly found that I bought tickets for the match against Hibernian, and again we're still in the cup for that. But I've also um, um, gone in for the ballot for the Olympiacos game, which is next week. So again, you can see that it's actually getting intelligent results back from your own data. And again, the important thing here is within Gemini for Workspace, this won't go to build the large language model because I'm using the consumer one. That might not be the case, and somebody knows that that I went to that Hibernian game potentially. In Google Drive, so again, this is what's Google terms as the side panel. And this is the big difference between what the products that are available now and the ones that are coming down in the future. And this is where the huge value is it'll look at documents within your workspace that you have access to. It doesn't go across all the workspace stuff that you might not have access to and give you results on that. It's very much on what the documents you've got. So what I did here is earlier today, I downloaded the Microsoft annual report and basically put it into Drive. And then within here, I can give it a prompt. And what I'm saying is, I don't know what this product is, but I'm basically saying, analyzing that document, how many customers have purchased Azure Arc? And again, it's gone away. It's going through that large document. And you can see it's a docx, which wouldn't surprise you. And it's successfully pulled out from that document that there's 18,000 on that. And then another useful feature that will be coming to Gemini for Workspace is suggested questions that you might want to ask, like what are some of the benefits of using Azure Arc? And I couldn't find anything that. So again, very early stages, but you can see that it's also referenced the source document here. So we can click into that if we want. And go down and see where we got that information. So here we can see where it pulled that information on Azure Arc. So again, huge potential on documents that sat within your environment. And again, that's not fully released yet. It is in preview. Jumping into Google Sheets, this is the feature I was talking around with the templates, and it's got some suggestions here on the right hand side what I might want to use. So you can turn on Gemini clicking on the blue icon at the top. So I can say, he's given a suggestion, create a table that tracks team expenses, office and social. And again, Gemini is going away, and what it'll do is it'll try and structure the columns and also give me some dummy data to work with within the sheet itself. So again, I can see that it's put in things like date. It's put the selection criteria. So if I'm happy with this, I can say insert it. So now it's in the sheet, and then I can obviously edit this. But again, from that cold start, it's given me something to work with. Another feature within Gemini is being able to have smart fill. So again, this is a pretty exciting feature and has a lot of potential. So this is an example. I've done an extract from my social media reviews, and I want to get a feel for how positive or negative they are. I can go through these manually. So I might say my favorite hangout spot. So that's obviously a 5 stars. Isn't worth the price. So I'll say that's probably a 2 stars type rating. Love the burger, 5 stars. And you can see the suggestions already popped up. So if I click in fill the 9 rows, you can see it's actually had a look at the text that's in there. So extremely disappointing, overpriced, 1 star. That's probably about right. Gave me food poisoning, another 1 star. Have awesome cocktails and nice ambience, 5 star. So you can see that intelligent fill that's gone through. And again, you can review that as a human and adjust that. But again, it's probably saved me a lot of time, a lot of effort. And you can imagine that on a very large document. So this is Gemini.google.com. So this again is that similar, it's the replacement for Bard, and similar to ChatGPT, and this is where you can get information. So again, what I could ask here is probably what's quite useful is maybe write me a Google app script to do the mail from a sheet to Gmail. And again, this is useful because I'm not very good at Google Apps Script. And it's come back with a suggestion on how to do a mail merge, and also dropped in the JavaScript that we can use in AppScript for that. And it gives me the information on how to put it into that sheet. So again, it may not be fully accurate, but again, it's giving you a start to get in and do stuff in there. Cool. So if I just jump back to the slides, and what I really wanted to talk about now is around the sort of privacy and security aspects, because again, this is something that's prevented, or a lot of organizations proceed with caution around a lot of these generative AI tools, and I think this is one element that that Google's really strong on, and also clear. So historically, as you know, using G Suite, Workspace, the difference between it and the consumer version is there's no ads in there. Your data is your data, so Google doesn't use that, for any analysis, and always gives you the option in terms of taking out your data as well, gives you option around how you can control it in terms of data regions, data sovereignty. And what's important for Gemini for Workspace is, as I mentioned before, that importance that none of the prompts or the generator responses that you submit go to build that large language model. And also there won't be any human review, which again is a difference from some of the consumer versions of AI, including Gemini consumer version as well. So another important piece as well is that the responses that Gemini gives you are based on the access control lists of documents you have access to. So as I mentioned, you can't use it to basically try and interrogate or get information from other information in your workspace domain. It's based on what you have access to. So a prompt from me would get a different response from a prompt from a colleague who's got a different access to a different amount of information there. So in terms of the license SKUs for Gemini for Workspace, the two core ones now, as I mentioned, the Gemini Enterprise was the replacement for Duet AI, and the addition with that Gemini.google.com that's in there. But there's also a Gemini Business, and the Gemini Business one covers the majority of features, with the exception of basically that enhanced meets, taking notes for you, and the language translation, but also that data security one. And this is where I mentioned that some organizations may buy a core of the Gemini Business, and then they may want to buy the additional add-on, the Meet one, just for a subset of users. Another thing to mention around the Gemini Business is the Gemini Business one has a monthly limit per user on how many prompts and responses they get back, and it's something like 1,000. The end user can see where they are in terms of that, and you can, from an admin perspective as well, get reporting on it. So you can see it that, monitor it doesn't get abused. Within Gemini Enterprise, there aren't any limits around the prompts and responses that you can get there, and you've got access to the full products around Gemini within Workspace. So if you're interested in Gemini for Workspace, most customers who come through us as a partner, we can enable what's a 30-day trial of Gemini. But what we found is that it's most useful when we have what's called basically like a managed pilot. And from that, there's certain elements where we can work with you and again with Google as well into giving it a structured approach. So for this, we typically would have senior stakeholder investment in there as a sponsor. There's no cost for the licenses for this 30-day period, and there's also no limits to the amount of users. But what we find is that you need a sort of core set of people who will be participating and will be giving feedback. And to support that, we would have sessions on use cases where Gemini could be useful. We would go through training as well to show you how to use it. And prompt engineering is a really important aspect as well to get the full value out of it. And Google's recently published a prompt engineering guide for Gemini, which we can share after the session as well. So through that, we'd have regular office hours. So those would be Google Meets where we can get feedback, answer questions. We'd also have a chat space where all the participants could engage, and we as a partner would help as well. We'd go through some of the roadmap stuff as well, because it's a webinar and there could be non-Workspace customers on here. I can't go through the full roadmap on here, but I have showed you stuff that is out in the public domain at the moment. And from at the end of the 30-day trial, we can help work with you to put a business case whether you find that it may be appropriate for your organization, or maybe just for pockets of organization. You know, things like customer service, the Gemini for Workspace aspects of those could provide real value and help, you know, improve net promoter scores with your customer base. So that's all I was going to cover on the session today, and I'll open up the floor to see if there's any chat in here, or anybody wants to ask any questions. Feel free to pull on the right hand side, and I'll try and answer those. So Nick, good question. Do you have to license the whole estate? You can just license a subset of users. Yeah, really good question. No, you don't have to license, and there's actually no minimum purchase effectively within Workspace, Gemini for Workspace. And typically, if you go for a commit as well, which is the typical approach, there is discounts that Google currently offer. So on the Google Enterprise, Gemini Enterprise, at the moment, Google will offer a 20% discount. So if you commit for a year, for example, you've got that 20% discount locked in for that year, but you can just do it with an initial purchase of one. But yeah, good question. I should have covered that. Any other queries? Anyway, feel free to reach out to me directly if there's anything after this session, and I can share some of the assets so you can follow up. Hopefully it was useful, and I'll catch up with you soon.